I have been making videos for years, specifically about story, mainly about story in Call of Duty games. And one thing that I appreciate, I think more than anything else in video games, is a good story. Now, in the past week or so, I got the experience of playing an amazing story, and that is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Now, this game is filled with twists and turns. It's filled with amazing characters and multiple endings. And it is rare that I get to do this, and I don't know if this video will do well, but if you want to see more videos where I dive into the story of other video games, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe. But either way, whether this video does gangbusters or absolutely horrible, I wanted to put this one together because I really want to try to do a video that does this game justice. Now here's the thing, there's going to be major spoilers throughout this video. So number one, if you haven't played this game, click off right now. Or if you're not going to play this game and just want to hear what the story is all about, maybe this video is for you. But if you're in the midst of playing this game and you're just trying to figure out what's going on, finish the game first, then come back to this. I promise you it'll be worth your while because the ending of this game is absolutely wild. So here's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be going through and breaking down the story, and then there are two different endings that we're going to be diving into, and I will explain both of them, what they mean and what it means for the characters of the game. So without further ado, this is the story and the ending explained of Expedition 33. So our story begins in a place called Lumière. Now, here's the thing. I don't speak French very well, and I am horrible at rolling my R's, so you're gonna have to excuse some poor mispronunciations throughout this. However, within this city, we pick up in the day of the gommage. This translates vaguely to the scrubbing. Now, at this point, we don't really know what this means. However, it seems to be some sort of big festival within the city. We are speaking to our, what turns out to be foster sister by the name of Maëlle. Now, we can clearly see that they're close, but you'll see where this goes with the story moving forward. Now, we move through the city and eventually make our way to someone who we clearly have a love interest with that goes by the name of Sophie. Now, you can kind of see this turbulent background. They feel as though they've wasted their time together, but quickly we start to realize why wasting that time is so important. You see, that monolith that we were introduced to at the very beginning with the number 34 on it, it turns out that that means a lot more than just a number. It is a countdown. It is a countdown that anyone of that age will actually be killed or disappeared or Thanos snapped on the day of the gommage. And today is that day, and it's dropping down to the year of 33. Now, by the way, the character that we were first introduced, seemingly as the main character of the game, goes by the name of Gustav. So they eventually make their way to the docks where the festival begins, and never in a game have I immediately cared so much about a character's feelings and what they were going through as this introduction. They so well introduce the idea of wasting time with someone you love, and then immediately showing you what happens and the feelings that you go through when that time runs out. So what you are seeing here is the paintress, the person that decides what this number is going to be. Now, this started at the number 100 and has slowly for 67 years been counting down. And as soon as this number drops to the year 33, we start to see the townspeople of Lumière disappear. And it doesn't matter whether you are a couple, whether you are a family, whether it's your father, brother, sister, just immediately the people of the town quite literally get Thanos snapped out of existence, and there is nothing that they can do. But that doesn't stop them from trying. We quickly see that the city of Lumière is based around this exact thing, and as I mentioned, it quickly shows you why it is so dire.
I'm here.
Now, it is right after this happens where we find out about something known as the expedition, hence the name Expedition 33, which Gustav, as well as his sister, are a part of. Now, this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting because we find out about the past here. There was a fracture about 67 years ago where Lumiere broke off from, let's just call it the mainland, and they go every year sending an expedition to try to find out who the paintress is and stop her and stop the gomage. So this year, Expedition 33, filled with mainly 32-year-olds, and Maëlle, who is Gustav's sister, go to that mainland. And when they make landfall, things immediately go awry.
Which expedition are you from? Fall back! We need to go! He's not following. Putain! What the fuck? Who the fuck was that?
Merde! What do we do now?
Regroup at the rally point. The indigo tree.
Snap out!
So at this point, we don't really know what the heck happened, but what we do know is Gustav ends up waking up. We don't know where he is, and nor do we know what happened to anyone else, especially Mael. But as we work our way through this strange land, we end up coming across several, we'll just call them bad guys by the name of Nevrons. You end up taking them out and eventually end up joining up with your team, including making your way to this very, very strange manor, which is housing your sister, Mael.
Gustav? Are you real?
So you once again meet up with her, but the strange part about this is, why is she in this manor? And how does she seemingly know where everyone is and is almost acting like she is supposed to be there? Not to mention, she mentions someone is helping her along the way, and they look like this, and they go by the name the Curator, and the Curator follows us along, and this is the character that helps us level up our characters, level up our weapons. We'll come back to the Curator later on. So as we piece together the remaining members of our team, we do meet up with one more of them. We eventually realize that to get to the monolith, we have to get across a whole bunch of water, and to do so, we needed to meet up with someone by the name of Eske.
Bonjour, mes amis.
Hey, bonjour mon ami, Ciel.
So Eske agrees to help us as long as we can help him find his rocks, which is rocks somehow give him magical powers. So we agree to do so and eventually make our way to one of the rocks, which is being gatekept by, well, a really big bad guy. Now, along the way there, one of the things we run into is this mysterious young boy missing a face very similar to what we saw with the Curator earlier. Again, this is something that you will run into many, many times throughout the game, and every time he just essentially gives you riddles, or at least things that make little to no sense whatsoever. However, at the end of the game, they will. So after going through all of this, going on this journey, this is about 10 to 15 hours of gameplay, and you finally face off against this big bad guy to get the rock, to give to Eske, to get across the water, when someone from when we first landed on shore once again appears. The mysterious man who nearly killed all of us.
Ooh, what about that one?
Does it really matter?
Well, you know, like I always say, it's not about the rock. It's more about...
Gustav.
Run.
So the white-haired man stabs Gustav and blocks Mael from helping him. But when everything seems lost, still, Gustav tries to fight. But needless to say, his fight is absolutely futile. And by the end, this is what ends up happening.
Who come after. Right?
No. You promised!
So the gray-haired man kills Gustav, the main character in the game. You are not seeing this wrong. This is not a mistake. There's not an alternate way of doing this. This is quite literally what happens. And needless to say, Mael is not happy about it whatsoever. But it doesn't seem as though the gray-haired man cares at all, even though it is very clear he acts as though he recognizes her and that she should also recognize him. And that is why this next sequence makes such little sense.
This won't make sense to you now. But we both want what's best for our families. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle, but I did try to warn you. It's been a while.
Enter a new character. This is Verso. Right as one character goes out, a new one comes in. One who is stated as working with several expeditions before, trying to get them to the monolith to stop whatever is going on with Gomage. It is unclear at this point why this character has been able to survive the Gomage, similar to the white-haired man. But one thing is clear, it seems as though both of them are immortal, hence why they are able to fight each other. Now, we're going to start moving a little bit quicker here. So first things first, Verso kind of takes the role of Gustav to Mael, the big brother, father role, father figure kind of thing, and that's what we see moving forward throughout the game. The next mission that we have to go on is to get one of the soldiers, essentially, that Verso has fought alongside for years on several different expeditions. Someone by the name of Monoko.
No distraction, son. I'm really busy beating up strangers.
So with the help of Monoko, they are able to go to Old Lumiere, which is the same place that we started out, but the older version of it before the fracture happened. So when we get to Old Lumiere, we end up finding a manor where the gray-haired man seems to be residing. And the people that get there are 1, Mael, and 2, Verso. And we appear there, and we start to get into an argument, and when we do, the other characters end up showing up. And just like this, we find out a little bit more of what is actually going on.
Were you planning on sharing that this man, the man who murdered our team, is your father?
Family is not my favorite topic.
Now, essentially, Verso just says, we'll deal with this later, and then they end up getting in a fight with the person that we now know as Renoir, who is Verso's father. More of the family will come into play in a little bit, but for now, just know Renoir is Verso's father. So they end up getting in a big fight, and at the very end, when Verso and Renoir clash, there's a brief moment where Mael sees something, in particular, a fire going on in the background. Again, this will come into play later. But for now, after the fight, the house or the mansion disappears. They go back to camp and they have a discussion. And basically, Verso says he's had some problems with his father in the past. He doesn't want to talk about it, but his goals are the same as theirs. So they stick together all the way into the monolith. Now, when we get to the monolith, Renoir is once again there waiting for us, and he gets into a conversation with Verso, asking him to rejoin his family in a bunch of very, very complicated ways that don't really make any sense. Believe it or not, that's actually on purpose. So once again, we fight Renoir. We also find out at the very end that this is the Descendre family, the entire group of them, and that is essentially who we are trying to stop. At this point, you can probably figure out that the paintress is Renoir's wife. However, the scene after you beat Renoir here is the most important out of the entire game, and it involves the person that we saw before who is helping out Mael, and that is the curator.
At long last, we meet. This is all you have left of your son. Destroying it won't bring your wife back. It will only destroy the last tie you have to each other.
Now you may be extremely confused here because the curator just got called Verso's father. How does that make any sense? Well, as it turns out, the version of Renoir that we have seen this entire time, the one with the paint over his eye, is not the real version of Renoir. It is a painted version of Renoir by the paintress, and painted to protect the paintress from the expeditions that were coming for her. This is the most important and probably the hardest part of the story to actually understand. But yes, the curator that you are seeing right there is actually Renoir. It is actually Verso's father. That is why they were helping Verso and helping Mael the entire time. But now, with the painted version of Renoir dead, we are now able to go directly after the paintress. So when we get there, we first get to interact with the paintress, and right away, she realizes that Verso is indeed her son. But she says something really, really weird.
But the fire. Are you really here?
So clearly that fire that Mael saw earlier that I pointed out had something to do with Verso getting hurt, disfigured, killed. We don't really know. And the paintress, the mother, doesn't really know what is going on here. But then it gets even weirder when she starts talking to Mael.
Alicia.
Your face. My face. What about my face? Are you going to burn it again?
Alicia's your daughter.
And Mael reminds you of her. The daughter you lost.
So we also find out that the paintress had a daughter in the fire as well who seemingly burned her face. That's the child that we see alongside Renoir and the paintress earlier on in the campaign. So anyway, we end up killing the paintress.
Alicia.
So after the paintress somehow speaks to your soul, you end up going back to Lumiere and telling everyone that the expedition was a success and everyone is party exciting. However, Verso is not. As he goes and looks off into the distance, he ends up reading a letter from his sister.
Brother, I tire of the conflicts and deceptions that plague our family and theirs. So I entrust you with this letter. Whether you give it to her is up to you. I'm at peace with what's to come. When the time comes, I hope you will be too.
So in this letter, it explains exactly what has happened in this universe. We find out that this universe that we are inside is a facsimile. It is not the real family. It is but a painting that the paintress has painted. That paintress just so happens to be the mother of this family. Now, why create this fake family? Well, as it turns out, that fire that we saw before actually happened in the real world, and Verso died. The Verso that we are seeing inside the painting is but a memory, whereas everyone else within the family is still alive in the real world. This is the way that the mother, the paintress, is dealing with her grief, an immense amount of grief. But after taking out the paintress, the life force behind this world that has been created is destroyed. So even though they seemingly stopped the gommage, there is still one final gommage. So this is when we get a look at the real world and what is actually going on with the Desandra family. You see, Alicia started a fire. This fire killed Verso, and ever since, the entire family has been in mourning. And the way that they have dealt with this, the way that they have dealt with their grief, is the painting. And in fact, this painting isn't just anyone's painting, it is Verso's painting. Esque was actually a painting that Verso created before he passed away. Similarly, Monoko, the character who fights alongside you, is another one of the childhood imagination things that were created. The Nevrons and every little creature that you find within the universe was a figment of Verso's imagination. And after Verso's death, the mother, the paintress, dove into that painting so that she could keep the memory of Verso alive and keep Verso's memories alive, bringing in Renoir, a fellow painter, alongside her, painting him into it as well. But what he realized is his wife was stuck, and he just wanted to get her out because he realized how much this painting was destroying her life, and she was withering away to nothing. So he put together a plan to get her out, and that involved Alicia, and that is when she went inside the painting, painting herself as Maëlle and going along with this expedition. The problem is, though, she didn't remember why. So this is why characters like Verso, like Renoir, and like the paintress could never be killed within the painting. They were immortal because they were painting it from the outside. But guess what? That also means Maëlle is immortal, or I guess I should say Alicia is immortal as well.
Alicia.
Actually, I prefer Maëlle.
I think I do too. But I'm not really Verso, and you're not really Maëlle, are you?
You're not Verso, no.
So essentially what they mean by that is Alicia in the real world is still alive, whereas Verso is not. However, she has become more accustomed to living inside the painting, being more comfortable with the name Maëlle. Now, this is when another character shows up, Renoir, the curator, if you will. However, this time he is actually himself. He is Renoir. He has not been painted, and you can tell because of the kind of black line that went through his eye throughout the game is now gone. And he essentially is telling them that if Maëlle decides to stay here, she is essentially killing herself with grief, living in the past, and how that is not okay. And that is what's happened with his mother.
After the fire, you wanted me to find new joy in life. And I tried. But I couldn't. Verso died because of me. How do I get from that to joy?
Child, it will get better, I promise you. But this is not the way. Your friends speak truth. And it changes nothing. You can hate me. But that's a choice I must make. As your father, I must look out for you. Especially when you can't look out for yourself.
You treat me as if I'm still 5!
I treat you as if the shadow from the worst day of our lives is going to suffocate you and take you from us too!
So then they fight Renoir. Renoir trying to make it so that Maëlle will come home, or I guess I should say Alicia will come home out of the painting, retreat from her grief. But at the same time, Maëlle does not want to. So they fight, and eventually you beat Renoir to teach him how to use his gifts and how he honed them in, but how they can be dangerous, how spending your time in this alternate world, in this grief, is detrimental to anyone as a human being, how it slowly kills them while being in something beautiful. And that is of course a problem, and now he has felt as though he has lost his son, but also has lost his wife in the grief, and now is losing Alicia, or Maëlle, as well. So by the end of the conversation, they end up striking a deal.
I want to lose you either. I'm not leaving you forever. Just a little longer.
want to trust you, but
You can.
keep the light on for you. I hope you find peace. Hold on to each other.
First of all, I love the line, "I will leave the light on for you," like any parent does when their child goes out to their first party or is out driving around with their friends for the first time, just hoping, praying that they will return home so that they'll leave the light on for them. I love that line. Now, after this, Verso ends up kind of making his way through this portal, and when he does, he ends up finding someone who we've run into many times throughout the game once again. It is once again that little boy. The little boy with, I guess you could say, the destroyed face.
Hi. You're tired of painting, aren't you? I'm tired too.
That little boy is the child version of Verso. And Verso is telling him that it is okay to stop. It is okay to stop painting, because that is the little boy that created this universe, created the characters who we ran into throughout this game. And basically, by him being here, he is trying to say goodbye, to go out of the painting and end the entire thing, because now he wants Alicia to go back into the real world, to not be scared of her grief, to face it dead on, and instead of living as an escapist and escaping from reality, to go back into the real world and stop killing herself with grief. So when he goes to touch his former self, to touch himself as a child, to end this entire painting, Mael stops him. And from here, we are presented with a choice. Either we pick Mael and fight as her, and if we win, then she stays inside the painting, because Verso knew that she lied to Renoir about returning home. However, if you choose Verso and he wins the battle, then Mael is forced to return outside of the painting, retreat from grief. And I really do think that there is a deeper metaphor behind both decisions.
If you could grow old, would you find a reason to smile?
So ending number one, we are going to look at Mael's ending. Now in this ending, essentially, she ends up beating Verso in the fight. But when she does, she gets a response from him that I don't think she was really expecting. And I will say this, it is one of the saddest scenes in a video game that I have ever seen. Here's what happens.
Please, don't say that.
Please, listen to me. Only you can do this. You can do this, please. Unpaint me. Unpaint me. Please. I don't want this life.
Stop saying that.
I don't want this life. I don't want this life.
I just wanted to live this lifetime together. This lifetime that was stolen from us. Please.
So we see that Verso no longer wants to be a part of this. He no longer wants to be in this painting that is not real life, where he's immortal and just gets to see the pain that has been caused over and over again. So when we go into the ending, we see that we are in some sort of amphitheater. And all of these characters that we have seen from before, like the characters who went on our expedition and even the kids that were following Gustav, are there, and everyone seems to be happy. Even once the characters sit down, Maëlle stands up and sees someone else walk into the theater. It's Gustav and his girlfriend Sophie from the very beginning. So where it seems like this is the happy ending, where someone steps onto the stage, is where things take a turn, because the person who steps on the stage is the one person that doesn't want to be there. It is Verso, quite literally performing for Maëlle, putting on a show to help her with her grief, to help her deal with everything that has happened. And in a life where he is basically stuck and not able to get out of this painting, at this point, everyone in here is just putting on a performance for Maëlle. And the last thing we see in this ending is her eyes being obstructed, paint starting to cover them, and this is a metaphor for her being killed by grief.
Don't leave me again.
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, huh? You've got this incredible power to paint. You'll never have to suffer a life you don't want.
That line right there is the difference between the two endings. You will never have to suffer a life that you don't want, which is exactly how Verso has been living for years and years, if you can even call that living. But in this ending, we see him comfort Maëlle as she disappears out of the painting, because after she dies, I guess, in the painting, she is gone. The painting is going to be gone, because in the next thing, we get to see Verso put an end to his grief, his child's grief, and, well, the end of the painting as a whole. But it's not just him as a child that he needs to say goodbye to, because he also needs to say goodbye to his creations, his friends, and really the only people that have been there for him the whole time.
I will miss you guys. Verso.
Now there's this idea of in death you are only by yourself, and I think that scene as Verso as a child versus what he's lived through for the past years is absolutely wild. But where things pick up in the epilogue to this ending is in reality, in the real world, with the Descendre family and the funeral that they are having for Verso. I think this scene is incredibly important because it shows not only Alicia or Maëlle saying goodbye once and for all to her brother, but also the entire family together, almost as though you can see them finally letting go of their grief because of what Verso had done inside of the painting. I think it's a beautiful ending, a great metaphor for dealing with grief like this entire game has been. And with this, I will leave you with Verso's ending.
Sous les étoiles, où tout commence, rien ne finit. Dans le dessin, toile vierge, horizon lointain, peignons ensemble les couleurs de demain, au clair obscur. Œuvres infinies, chaque pas trace la route d'une vie. Au lendemain non écrit, dans le